transferred from animals to humans.
And joining us now to discuss is our panelist, Erin Emore, Executive Director of USA Strong and grassroots organization looking to rebuild America's middle class. John Fleming, former Louisiana congressman, a former assistant to President Trump. Good to see all of you here. Erin, I'll start with you on this one here. So the President of the United States has his phone call with President Xi of China. We know more than 550,000 people have suffered and died from COVID. Millions were infected by it here. Our economy has crumbled. Why wouldn't this question be asked when we know there are some questions about whether this developed in a lab, per the former CDC Director Redfield?
Because the Democrat Party is virtually a bedfellow of the Chinese Communist Party here in America. It's really sad. And by the way, finding out and ascertaining where the coronavirus came from isn't about Chinese-America relations. It's about saving a population of people. Well, I'm not a virologist. I am not a doctor. But from what I understand, when you start analyzing the origins of a disease, you can find better ways to treat it and help prevent diseases like this in the future. This is something that the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, should be looking into, but instead they are just complicit with China, sitting idly by while the Uyghurs die in concentration camps, while they treat their people horribly, while they treat minorities horribly, while they continue to kill corporations and businesses in America and take those jobs to China. We just sit idly by, and it's going to be, sadly, if we don't do something about it, the downfall of America as a nation, and it's really sad.
And investigating the origins, again, is not a critique of the Chinese people, those living in the country. No. It's those who knew, right, and when they knew it, because perhaps if that information was made available earlier on, more lives could have been saved.
Airborne, that it is airborne. Where is the criticism from this administration on the WHO, something that we now fund again?
There is no criticism. And by the way, Dr. Tedros, who, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not even a real medical doctor. I could be wrong, and then I forget. We haven't talked about this in a couple of months. But his former line of work is very suspect as well. We know that they're taking huge windfalls from China. And when the virus originally, sort of came into the forefront of the conversation last February, Taiwan and other nations were saying, hey, I think human-to-human transmission is possible. And they sort of shot that down, as you said, costing us so many lives. You cannot cover up for the Chinese Communist Party when so many lives are at risk. We need transparency in medicine. Medicine and politics make horrible bedfellows. We need to understand how to best treat the American people. And when we're sort of covering up for the Chinese Communist Party and the WHO is complicit, where do we go from here? We need someone who's going to speak out, and it's going to have to be a Republican or an independent or someone who's not politically minded, because the Democrat Party will not do it.
And Tedros, by the way, PhD in philosophy, not a medical doctor, as you pointed out. Correct?
That's scary.
Yeah. Well, John, we kind of all watched this on display at those public talks between U.S. officials and Chinese officials in Alaska. It was, I think, a few weeks ago. It didn't look so great for Americans. And of course, as fellow Americans, you would want our country to look well.
Erin Emore, John Fleming back with us today, and I'll go straight to Erin on this, and I'll play this. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said yesterday that the basis for the Peach States legislation was, quote, built on a lie. Watch.
Is the White House concerned that Major League Baseball is moving their All-Star game to Colorado, where voting regulations are very similar to Georgia?
There's a lot of criticism that could be said about that. Early voting is longer in Georgia than it is Colorado. It just depends on which points of fact of the election laws in each state you want to pick out and which one works to your narrative. Erin, your thoughts?
Well, let's go back to the beginning. Allegedly, the Major League Baseball organization moved from Georgia to Colorado because of racism. Everything that Jen Psaki said, vote by mail, has nothing to do with race. Registering on election day has nothing to do with race. Colorado, on the other hand, is 90% white, whereas Georgia is about 50% minority. So really what you're doing is, by the way, taking $100 million in revenue away from Georgia and taking it to Colorado, which is a very white state. By the way, if MLB purports to care so much about minorities, why did they not interview their minority players before making this decision? Why did they not appoint a minority baseball commissioner? And why did the white commissioner, who's a member of Georgia's Augusta Golf Club, not say, forget it, I'm quitting Augusta Golf Club? You know why? Because he wants to play golf there. They only want to pretend to care about minorities, not actually do the work to care about minorities.
Yeah, really, really interesting points you bring up here. Again, that racial demographic of those living in Atlanta versus those living in Denver. And
making this decision, is he doing it for political points, or do you read it as him caring for election integrity?
Something stuck with me that he just said, easy to vote, hard to cheat. That should be the motto in all 50 states. And everything that Press Secretary Jen Psaki said about you can vote on the same day, sign up that day, you know what that does? It just makes it more difficult for someone who's already probably a volunteer in a state like Colorado to figure out exactly who you are. It should be easy to vote, but it also should be hard to cheat. A lot of people online in the Twitter sphere are really coming down hard on Governor Kemp. To that I say, I don't care what his motivation is. I don't care if he's trying to get reelected, but you know what? His intention is what matters. And his intention is free and fair elections. And you know who that benefits? Democrats, Republicans, and independents, because everyone deserves free and fair elections, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on.
all right, we got to leave it at that. Erin Emore, John Fleming joining us live. Thank you both. We appreciate it.
A new hour of national